This speech is going to be about why abortion should be legal. And abortion is something that we hear about all the time, whether it's through the news, through social media, or through strangers, family members, all the above. Many people are against it, and I'm going to be giving you a few reasons why it should be legal and try to change your mind. So if you give me a few minutes, I'm going to try and play devil's advocate here. And there are many reasons that I could talk about, but a few of them that I will be touching upon are in the case of rape, mother death rates, and why it should not be considered a murder. No one should be forced to have a baby against their will, and that would be in the case of rape. When you are forcing somebody to continue on with this pregnancy, you are forcing them to have a constant reminder of the trauma that they just went through. And that only prolongs their suffering. It makes them wait 8 to 9 months before they can begin to heal and get the help that they need to move on from this traumatic event. This will also increase the risk of mental illness issues that can arise after the pregnancy and after they have given birth. Even if adoption is the option for them in the end, they will still have the mental health effects that come from that. I found a quote from the Human Rights Watch, and it was about why abortion should be legal in Ecuador. And this says that denying rape survivors the right to decide about whether to continue a pregnancy or not is just cruel. Ecuador should not force any woman or girl to have a pregnancy that is against their wishes and to force them to do so. The key word in this statement is force, because you are essentially forcing somebody to have a baby against their will. Everybody has a freedom of choice, and it is a choice to have sex with somebody knowing that you could become pregnant. But in this instance, this woman did not have a choice in order to become pregnant. She was forced to have sex and happened to fall pregnant. Now, because of this, she should be able to have the choice afterwards of how she handles those consequences and what she does about that pregnancy. There's nobody that can tell her you don't have a choice. Now, the second point that I will be talking about is mother death rates. And every time that you get pregnant or you give birth or any of that, you are risking the chance that you could die, and you're risking the chance you might not make it out on the other end of that. So nobody should be forced to put their life on the line, because nobody knows if a mother is going to go into giving birth and come out alive on the other end. That's just a chance that people take when they really want children. But if you don't want children, that's not something that you should be forced to do or have to decide about. Now, the CDC says that every year 700 women die due to pregnancy complications or during labor and delivery. But their definition is any complications that come while you're pregnant, during labor, during delivery, and up to a year after the fact. They say a year after the fact because a lot of women who do give birth and have babies, they run the risk of developing postpartum depression. Now, with postpartum depression, just like any other type of depression, the suicide rates will skyrocket for these women, and the ones that do decide to take their own life because they've developed this depression, that will count towards the death rate of pregnancy complications. Now, you compare that to the death rates in abortion, and they are all the way down to 2 women a year that die from complications of abortion. But this includes ones that are done illegally in unsanitary situations, not done by actual doctors, and that of course can lead to people's death or infection that causes them to die, so on. So if you compare the two, you can see that abortion is clearly the safer option, and you're not being forced to put your life on the line to have an abortion. But when you have a baby, you are putting your life on the line every single time. Now, the last point that I'm going to talk about is how people relate abortion to murder and why that cannot be a thing, and that should not be a reason why it is banned. Now, to break this down, the definition of murder is one human being killing another human being. Now, ask yourself, what is a human being? So a human being is a living thing, right? So in order to be a living thing, you have to be able to produce bodily functions, breathe on your own, and you cannot be dependent on another species or another human for your life. So by definition, that is a living thing. Now, according to the University of Utah, a fetus is not viable before 24 weeks. And for a fetus to not be viable, it means that it cannot in any way come out of the womb and survive on its own. Even if it is extremely premature, before 24 weeks, it will not survive. It has a 0% survival rate. And even after that, at 25, 26 weeks, you know, it only goes up to a 50-50 chance that this baby might survive. But that's besides the point, because Planned Parenthood states that over 91% of abortions are done before the 13-week gestation mark. So people think of it as murder, but they're thinking of people who are trying to carry this baby to 30, 35 weeks along, and then they don't want the baby anymore. But that simply just does not happen. So the number of people that actually do get abortions before the 13-week mark, or even before the 24-week mark, it technically cannot be considered murder. And it definitely is not a living thing if we look at it technically. Now, in conclusion, this speech was meant to bring light to the negative things that are said and thought about abortion, and the reasons why people tend to think that it should be banned. And you might be still thinking it's totally wrong, it should be banned. And if you are thinking that, I'm just asking you to take things that I said into consideration. And in the long run, it could save the life of a mother. It could prevent somebody from developing severe depression from dealing with their traumatic events. And you definitely should support abortion because it can save a life at the end of the day.